Maybe we go till 6.
No.
Been a long day.
Was it? Super fun budget hearing or meeting, whatever. What are you eating?
I'm eating, oh man, I'm hungry. I'm about to be on Zoom, cottage cheese
Oh,
with some Japanese powder spice that I get. I don't remember what it's called. It's really good. Okay, it looks like we're live on Facebook Live. Looks like we're live on Zoom. Is that correct?
We are now, yeah, live on both.
Okay, so this is what we have called Coping in the COVID World, the new normal. We meet once a month right now. Typically we have a larger panel, but we have a very instructive and entertaining panel tonight here with you. We have a Q&A at the bottom of your screen if you're on Zoom, where you can put in your questions, comments, thoughts. You can join us here on the air if you'd like to, or whatever we call this. Also through Facebook Live at the Mono County Behavioral Health page. You can go to Facebook there. We're on Facebook Live. If you want to put comments or questions there, Justin will be looking at both things because he's the person here that's best at multitasking. So hi, Stacy. It's good to see you. We've got Supervisor Corliss and Sheriff Braun and myself. My name is Robin. I work for the Mono County Behavioral Health Department. And then we have Justin Caparuso, who has been helping Mono County with many things during this, last year, right? Have you been with us just about a year?
Yesterday was my 1-year anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary.
I know. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to work with you. I really appreciate you being a part of this.
It's been amazing for me, and I have to thank Supervisor Corliss for it and kind of getting it all started. So yeah, it's been great for me, and I've met so many amazing people. That's been the best part.
Yeah, Justin's been helping our county families before he was with the Rural Counties Association, and that's where we work together. So yeah, when the opportunity came up to keep working with Justin, I'm glad we didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
So I'd like to start with something today. I am now what we call fully vaccinated, which is to say I've had both series of the vaccine, plus at least the 2 weeks after. You know, somebody told me this is like when you give your dogs parvo shots, like they can't do certain things until now they can go do whatever they want, you know?
Yeah.
So I am that person now walking around in the world, and I've begun in very small bits starting to do things in public that I wasn't doing at all before, like going to physical therapy in person, and I got my hair cut and, you know, things like that. And I feel a very strong mixture of excited and kind of almost elated, actually. I feel also just kind of mundane, like this is something I've done for a lot of my life and it's normal. And then the other part is I'm like, I don't really like this so much. I'm not ready to actually be out in the world too much. Are you feeling any of that? Like, yay, no, I'm not ready to be there.
not as much for me. Am I muted? Nope, not muted. Because the nature of our work is that it's still very in person, very 24/7. Go to the office, everybody's working. So, and then going down to see my dad frequently, I've been more out and about. But I did go pick up takeout the other night from a restaurant, and I'm like, well, if they could be open now, we could go inside. And my husband and I said, I don't want to go inside a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go inside a restaurant, yeah, which seems silly, but wasn't ready to go sit inside a restaurant, which they weren't even seating inside yet. They weren't ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of little things, but for the most part, you know, in our world, not a lot changed. Yeah.
So that would be a way of saying, I think, too, right? Like you're not going from a world you weren't, a way of being in the world that you that it was super different than when you kind of kept with it you've had all along. Wow, that was a choppy sentence. Sorry.
Okay.
Anybody else? Well, maybe this is where I am the outlier.
Well, I mean, I have I am not in a profession or of an age where I have been, blessed to get the vaccine yet. So I'm not vaccinated. But we have also lived in a different environment.
Yeah.
And so I have, similar to Sheriff Ron, we've been somewhat back to normal where I live for quite some time, it feels like. So this weekend we did, though, I'm experiencing, because now my family members are getting vaccinated. And so my mom was fully vaccinated 2 weeks, kind of had that whole situation, and came up and spent the weekend with us for the first time in a year. And so she, that was great for us and great for her, and went to a restaurant for the first time for her in a year, and, did all those sort of firsts that felt very odd. Went to church, which is indoors and has been indoors for us for quite some time. And that was overwhelming for her because it was a large group, and she's not used to. So yeah, I can see that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I have an aunt who lives around the corner who's also fully vaccinated, who's come over once but wore a mask and sat far away and was very uncomfortable. So it's, I can't imagine. It's sort of a traumatic, I think, experience to go from being completely indoors and kind of away from people to full on. So yeah, I can see that.
I think if you live in Mono County, for the most part right now, you can get vaccinated. Is that how we're working at this point? Yeah.
Everyone 16 and up can get vaccinated here.
Okay.
We're really fortunate and well prepared. So it's exciting. But somebody posted something on social media about wondering if that she felt a little vaccine guilt. But I think public health officials would say to us, no, we need everybody to get vaccinated. And the smaller counties, I mean, Alpine County now has vaccinated, they only have like 1,000 people. I think they've vaccinated 750 people. And we're gotten over 7,000 first doses out of 14. And I don't know how many of those are kids. I should know stuff like that as a county supervisor, and I have absolutely no idea.
I don't think
it's
there are
written down
any
somewhere.
Kids, maybe some 17 and 18-year-olds, but it's mostly residents. Some second homeowners snuck in there. Who cares? But, I mean, if you're here often enough that you can be here to get the vaccine, both doses, I think you're here often enough to get the vaccine. Yeah. I think they're going to get to that point. Justin, you should just come on over because you're a county employee. You should just come over here.
You are a county.
It is an unbelievable feat what Mono County Public Health and administration and the team and has pulled off, because that percentage of vaccinated population is just leading the state. So it's fantastic. Yeah. And I understand where people say, it is interesting because it is a little bit disproportionate, I guess, across the state. I wouldn't call it inequitable, but disproportionate. So, and confusing, just like everything else has been for the last year. Yeah.
Well, it's one of the ways that having fewer people is actually easier to deal with, right? You have this statewide experience going on, and the fact that we don't have as many people, it makes it way easier. And then the fact that we have the people that are putting it together, I mean, the vaccine clinics run very smoothly. So if you are listening and you're interested, and you have, you can sign up for one. I'm sure Justin can probably explain that to you. Go to the website for Mono County Coronavirus. But at the same time, if you have questions about it, or you're thinking, oh, I'll get the first one, but I'm not so certain about the second one, I think there's people out there that can answer all those questions for you. Right. I had a decent, like, need to not work, take a nap for part of the day reaction to the second vaccine. But I'll tell you, and I was a little bit, there's, you get stuff in your, well, I get stuff in my head that I'm hearing about. People like, oh, the second one's going to put you down. And I'm like, I laid there and I didn't get any of the respiratory symptoms because I didn't actually have the flu. And I just thought, you go, body. Like, you just hammer this out. Get as achy as you want to. And then within 36 hours, I felt absolutely fine. So happily and much worth it.
We also have a question. Thank you for that.
Oh.
Facebook here about COVID tests to fly. And Lori was asking, can't find the right one in Mono. And I know Mammoth Hospital is doing those tests for travel, and there's a place you can go. I do think there's a fee, but if you're looking for the test to fly, you can do that at Mammoth Hospital.
And I have to shout out to the OptumServe testing. Obviously, our public health department did a great job with testing too, but I've been getting tested once a week just to be doing my part, like the tells me, Justin.
I know.
And so the OptumServe, the test results come back in 24 hours, in some cases less than 24 hours. I got tested most recently on Saturday. I had my test results by Sunday afternoon. So I don't know if that works for, maybe that doesn't work for travel, but if you just, the lag time between test results had been an issue before, it isn't now. So I'm really trying to tell everybody I know to just go over there and get tested. It's really fast.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going out, and I know my husband and I are going to take our first kind of away trip. He got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, so he's fully vaccinated. I'm halfway vaccinated, and we're going to go, out of town and see family members who are fully vaccinated. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Well, what else? How is everybody doing? How do you feel like? I mean, Mono County now is in a different situation where I think it feels a little less impacted here by COVID like we were. Maybe different than obviously the Sacramento area or the LA area. How are we doing?
I wonder if there's a sense of, I wonder if there's a sense of, obviously this go round of sort of this trend, this positive trend, has a lot to do with the vaccine, and we're seeing a lot of positivity around that. But we did have a dip before, and we think where things seem to start to turn a corner in the positive direction, and then they did not. And I wonder if there's a little bit of hesitancy around, even with the vaccinations and all of that, that there's still a contingency of the population who aren't going to do it. And is this are we going to move backward? Are we going to, And so I think that, I wonder if people feel that, and that probably contributes, I would think, to some of this anxiety about going out.
Absolutely. The variants, I've been still reading the science and still trying to be cautious around that. Because man, that would be a letdown, right? You get all excited and get out in the world, and then all of a sudden, bam, not so fun.
And I think, for just the fact that it's been 1 year, I mean, this week, for me anyway, and in the county, that's when, and when the official stay-at-home order in California went into place, I think it was March 18th or 19th. All I remember is March 17th was our last in-person board meeting. And, just not knowing what to, and so I've been spending a lot of time the last few days just thinking back, like do you guys remember how you were feeling and what your expectations were a year ago? And then, what do we want out of the next year? What can we expect? What do we think? How do you even prepare for it?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember.
Right, like a year ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
I mean, 15 days to flatten the curve. I mean, that's what that's what I thought. And I was in Mammoth Lakes without my family. And it was interesting for me because having come into the elevation, I didn't account for coming into the elevation. And so every night I thought that I for sure had COVID as I was, in my room by myself and having a hard time walking up the stairs and then realizing, oh, I've been in the elevation and of course, that's going to be impacted. But no, I think a year ago, I really thought this is just a 2-week deal and we're going to get through it. And even back, the kids, I remember our kids were just talking about how it sounded so fun. 2 weeks of no school, and we just kind of get to hang out, and how quickly that faded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember we were planning, my husband and I run a mountain bike association. We put on a big race every year. The race was at the end of August. We're like, oh, we're fine. This will all be gone. This will be done. We'll be fine. We can have this race. We can totally have this race. And then May came around. No, we should still be, yeah, we'll be okay. And then June, I don't know. And then by July, because we wanted to give people an opportunity, we had to cancel it or roll it over to this year, which now we're planning it again. And fingers crossed that come August, I'm really hopeful that things will be good. We're talking July 4th as our benchmark of when things can be quasi-normal again. I don't think normal is even a word that applies, because we've changed so much. It's never going to be like it was.
Mm-hmm.
We've adapted so much. We've learned a lot. There are good things from it, bad things from it, a lot of takeaways. So I don't know. I would be happy to not have to do, not that I don't love you all, but I am so sick of Zoom meetings. I am so sick of, you're on mute. You're not muted. I posted
You're
that
breaking
yesterday to
up.
Facebook. You're breaking up. You're frozen.
That was the new one today, where I realized the person that's breaking up can't hear you say that. So, and everybody's saying,
Right.
You're breaking up.
Yeah. Put some pants on. I heard that one. Which I haven't been in a meeting yet where that was appropriate. But I'm sure it happened.
Humans are so adaptable, right? Oh,
We
sorry,
have had
Stacey.
some COVID meeting bloopers, though.
Oh, some good ones.
Yeah, we have.
Really good ones. Yeah.
Probably not
I
worth
was thinking about
dragging.
yesterday, a lot of times in our meetings, for the Board of Supervisors meetings, after a long meeting, the drive, and Ingrid, you still do this with your work, but the drive back from Bridgeport is a nice decompression. And so yesterday after the meeting, I was like, I gotta go. I wish I could just drive for an hour and kind of clear my head a little. Go out and take a walk is great, but I just started thinking like, it'll be, wonder when we'll ever be able to be back in our boardroom, and we have a totally new building that we haven't even.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that drive.
I've never been in there.
Time, the drive. That's one thing I've really noticed. The fact that we book a meeting for an hour on a Zoom, and it almost feels like you have to use the hour, which you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is booked right away, and you don't have that time to decompress. You're not driving from one meeting to the next. You're not walking down the hall to go to a different. It's just it's exhausting, and then at the end of the day, you think, what have I accomplished besides being on camera all day? Yeah, it'll be nice to kind of have that the drive windshield time and just the in casual conversations that don't happen anymore.
Yeah, I mean, especially I think in a small town, like I think there's certain establishments I can go into and run into you two or a whole matter of people, and I don't even know that you have that long of a conversation, but you have these markers that those people are still there around, they're still in your life, they haven't gone anywhere, you might do a little bit of a check-in, and how essential that became. I think that's probably the thing that I've missed the most about being around people, is that. And I will say my dogs, because I've been working from home, my dogs have been stoked. So I'm starting to, there have been times where I can't, I mean, really, literally, I can't go anywhere in the house without them following me, all of them. And so I've been starting to do things a little bit without them, like even just like going to town for an hour, just trying to get them used to the fact that I'm not going to be here all the time. And, they don't think they're fine, but they're actually going to be just fine. But that has been a benefit for sure. And I think I've had more contact with some people than I normally would, because it's so intentional. And I had, until you mentioned it, Stacey, remembering a year ago how it felt, because there was that idea that we could make it go away. if we all participated in a certain way, and then it became clear that we weren't all going to participate like that. And then that all the anger that people had about that on both quote sides that we now have, and like all of that, I remember we talked quite a bit about trying to process that. Like, how do you manage how it feels to go to the post office and see some people saying this is a big hoax and it's stupid, and some people saying I'm terrified, I'm gonna get sick at any moment. And then we had, 4 deaths. People lost people here. We have some people in our community that got really sick and are not better. We have people that are still really worried about it. And, all those people are a part of our community soul, if you will. And just what it's been like to not really be able to process that as a community. At least I don't feel connected to the community enough to have had those conversations amongst enough people to know that we're processing it together. I assume it in families.
Well,
Hey, so
it's getting processed, in other forums like social media, where it isn't as healthy, it's harder, and a lot of misunderstandings and misinterpretation.
I was reading some social media today about an issue that's going on about the town, and I'm so interested by people who are so resolute in their strong opinion on the sudden, and thinking, wow, I'm working very hard not to do that, right? Like, to be curious. I'm going back to that curiosity may be the thing that saves humans from themselves, is just being a little bit curious about why, what made you think that, or who are you saying that, or whatever. Just even a little bit, the 3 questions. But how quickly people decide that throwing a bunch of anger around is reasonable but useful. Like, it just, like, I don't know about you all, I just pass right through all that now. I don't even read it because it's not interesting.
I tried to read that. I think I know what you're talking about. And people are so certain that they're right, that their point of view is right. And we're talking, for those people, I assume we're talking about enforcement of the leash laws. And
Justin, this is a
everybody
huge
huge. So probably let's not delve too deep in it, but and not give our own perspectives. I think I know where y'all come from on this, but just how vehemently people are, no, you absolutely have to leash your dog all times, even when they're in your house, to the other people, no, my dog is free range. I mean, it's just like, there's a middle ground, people. There's a reasonableness where, based on the circumstances, it's just knowing your audience and knowing where you are and what could go wrong, and mitigating that.
Right.
But
I tried to, just like with an actual dog fight, I tried to get in the middle and stick my hand in and pull people away. I got bitten.
Oh no. Yeah.
By people or by the dogs?
By people on Facebook.
Oh.
I got,
So I'm not flipping you off, but I actually did stick my hand into a dog fight. My dog 20 years ago got attacked by 20 years ago, got attacked by another dog, and trying to free my dog, I stuck my hand into the dog fight, and I ended up with 25 stitches and literally a finger that no longer bends. It's stuck. So I have an excuse if I ever flip somebody off, but you never, lesson learned the hard way, never stick your hand into a dog fight, literal or figurative.
Yeah. And how quickly everything turns into a fight. Like,
yeah,
it's just like, y'all, not that interested. Yep. Hey,
and then it's black or white. It's they're doing this or they're not, and it's and you're like, well, no, let's go back and look at the details and see. Nope, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, it's all assumption, right? And I mean, have you ever? I'm going to ask, have you ever made an assumption about something and then realized, I'm trying to think of the last one. I was on my way somewhere and I realized, I don't know if we're actually meeting. I just made that assumption and I should go back, and it turned out, no, we were having a phone call because I just had in my head we were meeting. Now, we all make assumptions all the time. And if you're telling a story about a leash law or wearing a mask, you've made a determination based on whatever you've decided are reasonable facts, and they're usually personal. Like, I've never had a problem with that, so therefore nobody should have a problem with that. And I think my new thing is to just be back to be community minded. Like, how does this affect the people around me? And I have a lot of dogs, and I know people are afraid of them. And they, you know, of all the dogs I've ever had, these are probably the ones you need to least be afraid of. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the person is afraid of them, right? That my responsibility is to not have that person be freaked out in my world. Maybe I'm a libtard or a snowflake. But that's how I feel, right? Like, that's a responsibility. In the same way that if I have a kid and somebody's like, I'm allergic to children, I don't go, oh, it's friendly child, you know? You say, oh, okay.
Speaking of your feelings, you've got a little shout out on Facebook. Lori's really liked your morning feeling videos. It's helped her not feel alone.
Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that. Which is to say, you all out there who may be listening, if you're listening live, we have a Q and an A on the Zoom meeting. You can add a comment or a question there. You can come on and talk with us. You can talk over the phone with us if you'd like to, or you can go to Facebook Live and leave a comment. And as you can see, Justin's right on it, and he'll let us know what it is. And we typically go for a full hour, and you know, we may not if we're feeling like maybe what we're learning here is people don't need us like they did before. People are starting to feel like they can go out into the world and find what they need from others in a way that works. Let's
talk about something that's not controversial, which is daylight savings. It is so nice that it's still light out right now.
It is nice.
Yeah.
I will say that.
It was not nice this morning at 5:30, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Like, I set my alarm wrong. It's totally dark.
I know I'm not by nature a super morning person, but I try to work out in the morning. So it's been hard. I've been missing my morning workouts. Luckily, they're just on Zoom, so it's no big deal. Yeah, it's always a tough one for me to adjust to.
Isn't it funny how 1 hour can
it's crazy
be such a
well, Justin, do you remember you at a past RCRC conference, you found this great speak. Well, there was the ballot measure to
oh right
passed.
Yeah, and it passed. Yeah.
There are serious health impacts to these.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah, we had a speaker who wrote a book about it. But I mean, you're talking about everything from a major increase in car accidents because of the light being darker while people are driving during the same hour. Major impacts to skilled nursing facilities and residents of skilled nursing facilities and how it impacts them. I mean, and really not a lot of positive impacts on the other side. You know, there's this theory that it was about for, you know, agriculture and none of that really jives anymore. So yeah, it's been interesting. And with kids, I mean, whatever we lose an hour this time. I mean, it's tough to get the week going again. It's only 1 hour, but.
Oh my God, the math to me is, do you add or subtract or yeah. Okay, something else you'd like to bring up that's not controversial? So far, we've talked about leash laws, masking, and time changes.
One thing, I know you are doing this because, you know, we talk about asking questions and kind of community minded, and a lot of it, you know, is practicing empathy. So what about those 3 questions? And do you have I have it somewhere, I just don't have it in front of me, like the card deck that has the questions that are supposed to.
Oh, I do.
Why don't you ask some questions?
I have it under all my tax material.
Oh man.
Is that controversial?
Oh. No, but good news on that. They pushed the filing date back to May 17th.
Oh, I didn't know that.
A little bit more time. Yeah, they did that. They announced that
I don't know where they are. Oh, they're over there. I'll go get it. It's out of my reach, and then you'll see that I'm wearing sweatpants.
Do you want to go? I'll go get mine that are out of.
Okay.
Do it.
So I do want to say something. I think that you know, the springtime is the time that's really, really actually hard for people. And when you look at suicides, they happen primarily starting right about now, like the not during the holidays as people might normally think. And part of the reason that, I mean, this is, I'm going to botch the science around it, but to just explain it as we call it in lay women's terms is the spring brings some energy, and it brings like a uncomfortable energy for a lot of people. So like when you go into the quote hibernation and into what some might feel like a terrible depression, you don't have a lot of energy for anything. And that's a terrible place to be, and it's a lot of suffering. But what we're starting to see, we've had more crisis in the last probably 2 months, and in this last month particularly, than we've had all year. And it's people who just feel like they just can't do it anymore. And I think that, you know, when you know you have to, even if you're not in participating in this, but you're the people around you, the businesses around you, the worlds and communities around you are all participating in this thing called COVID and taking care of yourself in your community. And then it starts to expand or loosen. I think all that angst and energy is going to come out of all of us. I think that's just normal. And what we're seeing are people who don't have great support systems, who feel like they were doing everything they could just to cope anyway, and now feel like this is one more thing. People who've had a lot of economic stressors, people who, you know, have suffered in ways that they just have had accumulative effects. That's what we'll see next, and in terms of the mental health of our communities. And which, to me, like one of the things that I think I see in the world is that people, it's much more comfortable to be angry than it is to be scared. And it's way more comfortable for people to be angry than it is for them to be sad. And so what we see, and what we're seeing on the national level, and I think we see it on Facebook around the things we were talking about, is people just get mad. They're just like, I don't care how this affects you, because I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling so strongly that I don't really care what anybody else thinks. And you know, I'm a psychotherapist, so I'm always going to ask, like, well, it can't really be about the leash law. Like, that's just the thing you're going to broadcast this anger on. But I think if we all spend some time inside of ourselves, we feel kind of worked up. We've got energy we don't know what to do with. We've got energy that might feel bad to us, or anxiety provoking, or, you know, all matter of things. And then if it comes out in this anger, even though you might feel righteous about it, what happens is then people move away from you. They move away from you psychically, they move away from you physically, and we notice that. We may not register it right away, but we start to notice it. And then, you know, we're driven by loneliness. Like, loneliness is the biggest driver for humans to do things that are not in our best interest, because we want connection. And I think, you know, professionally, we're seeing that really start to come up, I think. We'll see it when kids go back to school, not just because teachers have eyes on kids, but because kids are also now in an environment where they're not contained, and it's the containers lifting, and then all this feeling is in there. So my 3 questions are, when somebody says, how are you? Or if I say to somebody, how are you? And they go, man, I had the weirdest thing happen. You know, I didn't sleep well last night. I didn't sleep well last night either. You know, then we start talking about me. And if we could just give 3 questions to whoever we're with, no matter what we're talking about, we give them, well, are you sleeping other nights? Or, you know, how come? Or how does that affect you? Or I don't know, some question about that. Or that sucks. And, you know, how are you doing as a matter? And is there anything you need? Like, that we ask those 3 questions of people, that's empathy. But it also, that other kind of thing that gets called narcissistic listening, is that I wait for you to say something I can relate to, so now I can start talking about myself. And those kinds of conversations aren't connecting. They actually leave people feeling worse and lonely. And so that's my spiel for the day, is the 3 questions. You could even go 5 if you want. Go big.
It's a great tip just in general too, for, you know, communication and social etiquette, and kind of how to, especially as we're all re-entering, you know,
Yeah.
us who have been out of it for quite some time, re-entering and reintegrating into society. Like, just, yeah, 3 questions, and and then listening, right? I mean, not just thinking of your next question, but really listening.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've been doing along those lines is when you're talking with someone, they ask you something about yourself and you answer and you're like, okay, they're going to play 3 questions with me. I'm going to talk about myself. And then they start talking about themselves, is to allow them play the 3 questions, allow them to, because they clearly need to talk about, they want you to hear them. They want to be heard. They want to, they want you to understand what's going on in their world. So just sit there and listen, even though you were kind of hoping, oh, thought you were going to ask about me, but to let people talk, which is hard when you were expecting to kind of unload on somebody, which I'm not an unload person anyway, so it doesn't really happen. But
Right.
Yeah, it's been
and I think people who are
enlightening.
experience grief, you really notice that. You really notice how people don't want to get close to, they don't know what to ask you, like, how are you doing? So they don't ask you anything, or they might say, well, how are you? And you go, well, I'm kind of fine. Oh, that's good. We kind of move on. As you have to practice. You have to get comfortable with, if you ask those 3 questions, somebody might tell you something that makes you uncomfortable, but really, almost all of the time, it makes people feel better. And it can make you feel better that you're engaged with somebody in that way, and you're not just having one of those conversations that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Hey,
I
Robin.
mean, we all have in our life, sorry, one more thing. We all have in our life that person that we avoid, because if you say, hey, how are you doing? They're just going to start talking, and you don't feel like you're actually really get to participate. They're just talking at you. Like I try not to be that person, because I have become a talker in my life. I didn't used to be. But also, people are lonely. So how do we kind of move close to people and then give them our 3 questions?
I don't
Okay.
mean to put you on the spot, but
Oh dear.
you brought up, which was news to me, that spring is sort of the height of issues related to mental wellness. How do are there signs that we can see in friends and family that that show that there's need for intervention?
Well, yes, there are. If somebody starts acting in a way that's quite different than you know them to be, if people are not sleeping, or people are sleeping way more than they might normally, if people are not eating, or they're eating a lot more than they might normally, if people are doing things that feel a little bit reckless, like you're in a car with them and they're driving recklessly in a way that you're not used to, if they're certainly anything that looks kind of like self-harm, they're using drugs more, they're drinking more, all of the kinds of behaviors that we exhibit in the world where we're looking really strongly for comfort.
Yeah.
Or like people who withdraw. And I think, so this is something that we were talking about actually right before COVID hit. We had quite a number of suicides of people who lived here locally in a short period of time for here. And we did a conversation, Supervisor Corliss and Sheriff Braun and I were all at that. God, it was late February, right? Like literally just right before.
Right before.
Yeah. And what we talked about, so one of the things that we talk about as a culture is that why didn't that person reach out? Like, why didn't they tell me how much they were suffering? And I don't know how this will always affect you, but I'm very reticent to tell people when I'm doing poorly, because I have a lot of skills and I have a lot of people that I know would listen, but I'm reticent to do that because sometimes I don't even know how badly I'm doing. And sometimes until after it's happened, I'm like, whoa, that was a bad time, So when people are really, really suffering and they're starting to feel like maybe I don't want to be here, or I just don't know if I can do this anymore, or I'm trapped and I can't figure a way out. It's really hard to also then get the energy to say, hey, Justin, can I talk to you? I feel terrible. I've never felt this bad in my life. Like, those are hard conversations to have. And what if you didn't listen?
Yeah, right.
What if you're like, someone goes, yeah, me too, I'm having a hard time. And then you think, I'm not talking to anybody.
Right.
So what we talked about at this meeting that we were at is how do we reach in? And to me, that's just the thing of like, and I've been trying to do this in my own life a lot, is just checking in with people like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. How are you? You know, hey, I know you had somebody in your life die. How are you doing? Because I care, but also because I think it matters that we let each other know, like, I'm giving you a hand if you need to touch my hand because you don't know how to reach out first. And I mean, to take it to the extreme, which I think is important for some people, if you feel like somebody is not wanting to live or they're thinking about it, or it's really important that we ask and we say, I'm really concerned about you. Sometimes I wonder if you really don't want to be here anymore, or are you thinking about suicide? Um, and listening, those are the places where making space for someone to tell you the truth are really important.
Yeah.
And it's hard because we want to do something, or we get scared, or we get nervous, and it takes courage and risk. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering your questions, but
No, you really are. And I think, you definitely practice what you preach. I will say that. I had experienced a loss earlier this year, and the way that you handled that with me has rubbed off on me, kind of paying that forward, not to the same extent or level, but really that point of, I'm just checking in. I wanted to let you know that you were on my mind right now. I don't need you to call me. I don't need you to respond to this text, but you were on my mind. I mean, that is huge, I think. It really resonated with me in a way that, we often think about people. You're driving, and they don't know you're thinking about them, or and sending that could be the whole difference. Somebody getting a text that says that will change their life.
It's very, very hard to be a human, and it's very hard to be a lonely human and feel like you have all there's a bunch of reasons why people aren't going to want to know what's going on with you. And I think COVID has in some ways made it easier for some people because they could just go internal. But now that we're kind of being asked to step out of that a little bit, I think, it's really hard. I think it behooves us to start saying like we're talking here, how are you, and how are you going to navigate this next month? Stacy's going on a trip. How's that going to be for you? And it will be everything. It'll be great, and there might be parts of it that aren't great, and it will be everything because we do everything. But to talk about it, I can't stress enough how important it is to reach out to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, which was interesting because that was, an initial part of from the communications point of the COVID response. One of the initial campaigns was really around reaching out, and connecting with, as we were all sheltering in place, connecting with those who were alone, or those who, were vulnerable, or those who were ill, and really making that connection. And I think that was the pinnacle, I think, of, how community can come together at the beginning of all of this. Yeah.
What do you both think, Stacey and Ingrid, what do you think about when you're in a low place, what you do, or when you notice other people, or what's working for you?
It's funny that you said that, because I've been thinking, and you all know this, and I'm not an oversharer, but I have crazy back pain right now, and I've found out that I have, for lack of a better term, adult onset scoliosis, and I think it just comes from 30 years of wearing a gun on my hip and sitting kind of crooked, and crazy back pain, and learning to, and I've always had different pains, but thinking of the concept of living with pain, because we live in a world, this beautiful world where people only put stuff on Facebook or Instagram, all the good stuff, and you see all the good stuff in people's lives, and we have this unrealistic expectation, whether it's living with physical pain or emotional pain, that we shouldn't have pain, that we should be happy. Look at all these other people that are happy. And so it's not true. Nobody's perfectly happy. We all have to learn how to live with pain. So I've been thinking about that, living with pain and adjusting to it and making accommodations for it. So I don't have the answer for that. It's just a concept that it's kind of been dancing around my head, living with pain. emotional pain, physical pain, and the coping mechanisms, and the good ones and the bad ones, and how the bad coping mechanisms lead to addiction and to more emotional distress and to suicide so how do we find the right way to live with pain? Because pain's never going to go away. You know, and like you said, pain manifests itself mostly in anger, or sadness, or when you're hurt, you just lash out. I think it's almost an animal instinct. So how do we learn to control that instinct and how to live with pain and be mindful that everybody else is living with their own pain and we don't know what that is, and to not be so quick to judge. And I find myself being somewhat harsh and judgmental. We all are, you know, whether it's looking at somebody else's grocery cart or looking at their Instagram post or whatever. I've said that to people before when they look at my cart. Hey, don't judge my cart.
Look at all that ice cream in there.
Oh, no, not ice cream. Somebody did look at my cart askance once because I had peanut butter Captain Crunch. I'm like, screw you. I love peanut butter Captain Crunch.
Oh my God, I didn't even know they made that. That helps back pain, I've read.
Well, I'm hoping the injection I got in my back helps.
Forget that your back hurts, Ingrid.
Right? I know, because it tears up your mouth. I don't know. See, now I'm crossing my legs. One of my coping mechanisms is stop, but work on your posture. Sit up more properly. Imagine your mother's driving her knuckle into your back.
How about you, Stacey?
I didn't think I would miss that part, but.
Yeah, I think, there have definitely been times, especially for me in winter around the holidays. Oddly, with COVID this year, it was a little bit better. But I have little things that I do, little tools that I can reach for. I mean, really little, like, okay, can you put a timer on your phone to sit still and just, like do a counting breathing exercise for 2 minutes, or write down 3 things that you're grateful for, like little things. And if I find that I kind of my barometer is if I can't even do that, then I'm in trouble. And it's like, I better talk to someone about this. So, yeah. But for me, then if you can do just those little things, or, and I think we've seen a lot of lists like this through COVID, but these are tools that I hope we keep, kind of front of mind past COVID. Have you been drinking water? Have you taken a shower today? And, you know what? I'm gonna go take a shower. Okay, I just feel that much better. But it's hard because there are people who are going through things, where they can't. They're just like, if I can't sit still and breathe for a couple minutes, or somebody who can't even eat or drink water, or it's hard. So that's why I think another kind of beautiful thing and silver lining in COVID is what Justin talked about. It just, every time someone reaches into us, it changes our perspective and us to reach in. So we continue that. But community, I had someone say that to me the other day, somebody who grew up here in Mammoth, that they've lost 4 people they went to high school with in the last month. And some of those were community members. And I'm not certain if they died by suicide, or I know a couple of them certainly were, but it's really hard. So I, make a note. All right, let me text that person, and then you feel a lot better after you do the reaching in. For me, through this whole thing, it's been little tiny things that have gotten me through.
Yep.
Big things.
I think that's what we have. And I think every day, I just try to do the best with what I have today. And, Ingrid, it's interesting. I have some chronic pain now that I probably is not going to get better in my life. And it's related to I played years and years and years of basketball, and all the pounding and it's not, I think I just want this to go away. I've always been able to get past most of the pain that I have. I'm not sure about this time. And thinking exactly what you're saying, like, oh, this might be a part of my life. So I need to adjust differently. I need to think about this differently. I need to like I'm sitting on ice right now, like navigate differently, you know? But and not letting it get the best of me that I can, but also, you know, like reaching out to that people, like I resist that idea that there's like, and I think, you know, my dad died when I was young and he had cancer and he was young. And he said, I, you know, people are weird. They tell me that it could be worse. And so he's like, what do you have to be? Like a person with no arms? Oh no, then you have to be a person with no arms and no legs. Then you have to be a person who can't see, hear, taste or smell or breathe and have no arms and no legs. Like it's impossible. So why can't we just say, well, that's terrible for you, right? Like that must be really awful for you or hard for you or that, you know, whatever. And I learned that from my dad to not, to try not to anyway, take away from what I'm going through. That doesn't mean it has to be the biggest thing in the world and be dramatic, but that if it hurts me, it's painful to me, you know? And, you know, like I started off this conversation with something I thought we might all relate to. And today, this time, we don't all relate to it the same way I do. And, you know, that's okay. I mean, we all have pieces, right? But not everybody has to have pain like I have for me to have my pain. And I think there's quite a bit of that happening where, like, I know when my mom died, people were like, well, you know, she lived a long life. It's like, yeah, she did. It means I had a long time and it's going to be a lot longer time to miss her because I've had her for so long, you know, like, I don't know. There's just being able to sit with it. I think what you're saying, Stacey, is important. And I think so many of us don't know how to do that, or we're afraid of it, or we have other stuff in there that we don't know how to sit with because it's been so painful or traumatizing. And obviously that's why I have a profession. That's why I love my profession. That's why I work for the department I work for. And I'm not saying everybody should go to therapy, although I think everybody should go to therapy because I think it's the coolest thing in the world. But I also think that we can offer each other bridges every day, all the time. And it is little things. And it, like, I'm just thinking about you. I'm just checking in. I did it with a couple of people on a meeting today. Like, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. Like, how are you? And one of them was great and the other one wasn't so great. And nobody had asked because in Zoom, that's not part of, I mean, I don't know if we'd ask anyway, but that's what I miss from Zoom. And I'm trying to bring humor back into Zoom meetings, and some people get really irritated with me and because that's the thing I miss the most is yucking it up some, you know? Okay, coping with COVID. Do you feel like we should keep doing this? We keep doing it till
I think
we're
once a
back
month.
we go to Switzerland? Okay,
Yeah,
once a
I
month.
think
Okay.
once a month.
I hope that's August for me, but.
Okay. I'm having some part of my family is coming here on Friday, and I'm excited to see them, and I have some trepidation about it too, you know, and yeah, and I work from home now, so I've noticed I'm like, well, I'm going to take some time off. Well, I'm going to work a little. So I don't know about you all. I really have to work on that. Like
Oh,
if I'm
yeah,
off, I
Yeah.
have to be off. I used to be really good at that. I'm not being very good at that.
I've found that I suck at Zoom meetings while I'm at work because I literally have an open door policy. My door is always open, and I usually use AirPods so people can't see. And they'll come into my office. Hey, Sheriff. Oh, are you on mute? Are you on video? And then I don't pay attention to the Zoom meeting, and then somebody will ask me a question. I try too hard to multitask.
Yeah.
I would really like to go to an in-person meeting again. The Sheriff's Association is having their annual conference. Of course, it was supposed to be in Placer, and that's not going to happen. So now they're having it in Chico because in the state of Jefferson, you can have conferences apparently. So, and that's going to be in June. In June, like early June. So I've scheduled it. Who knows if it'll actually happen or not. They're actually doing one next month in Humboldt, and I'm not driving up to Humboldt because I don't think you can actually get to Humboldt from Mono County in the winter. I don't think it's possible.
You probably have to go to
I am
LA
going
first
to
or something.
Sedona. My sisters and I have planned a trip to Sedona, and we're super looking forward to that. Just because we've spent so much time caring for our dad and sharing that burden that we haven't seen each other very much, and so we've decided that the three of us just need to go and
nice.
and hang out somewhere. So
That'll be great.
my expectations are probably too high for that, but I hope I'm
It's
not
so fun to
disappointed by the
plan
trip, 'cause
stuff
we're all
again.
like, yes,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, just being able to plan. We're trying to plan our CRC meeting in Mammoth for June. Same thing, probably. Well, the Sheriff's Association is probably bigger, but you know, this would be maybe for 50 people. I hope it can happen.
I hope so. I heard there's actually a conference of sorts in Mammoth this weekend.
Oh,
Really?
Unofficial.
Oh, wow.
I heard
Is it about
Elevation
the
Week is
leash
still
law?
happening. No, Elevation Week is apparently happening this weekend.
Elevation. Oh, that's great.
Oh, my people. So, hey, we'll do this again in April. In the meantime, take care out there. If you are feeling freaked out or you're struggling or suffering, or you know somebody who is and you want help with it, you can call my department, 760-924-1740. We field all kinds of calls. We may not be able to do everything that you need, but we'll try to get you to the right places. In the meantime, reach out to somebody tonight and maybe a couple people tomorrow just to say hello, checking in on you. How are you? Haven't seen you in a long time. And try the 3 questions.
Yeah, I love that.
We can make a little effort to do that and report back later.
Yeah, that can be our homework for the month. How did the questions go?
Okay. I don't know when in April. I'll get that together. Hostess with the mostest and make sure that we have it. But it's always a pleasure to see you 3 for me, and then anybody else who's out there. And please do pass this along. It gets recorded. It'll get uploaded in the next couple of days. You can always check it out on Facebook Live at the Mono County Behavioral Health page, and feel free to pass it on to anybody who you think might want to hear it. Any last minutes?
Just
No.
take care.
Have fun with your family, Robin.
I will. I might see you out there.
Yeah.
You never know.
Oh, on the mountain?
No. Walking. But they're all 2 of them are over 164, 167, and the other one
we'll
is
see
my
them.
size. Oh yeah.
Look for the tall people.
They're easy to track. At most concerts, I can find my brother-in-law and my niece.
Nice.
All right. Take care, everybody. Really wonderful to see you.
Everybody.
Thanks for joining us.